Welcome all of you fellow arcanists out there to the Frith Guild podcast, where we explore an amazing world full of mystical creatures and their partners. Our hosts are Eric Smith and Scott Wareham, and they'll be your guides along this journey through plague and skyships. So grab your eldrin, strap on your swords, and get ready to defend the innocent from evil. Throughout this series, if you have not caught up to the chapters being discussed today, we urge you to hit the pause button, grab your copy of this wonderful book, and catch up. We'll be here when you get back. After raiding Theus and Venrover's office in the Grand Laboratories of New Nora, Volke and Joze Blackwater take the mysterious black bone pieces found in the desk's locked drawer, embed them into a longsword, and imbue the blade with nightmare magic. Meanwhile, Adelgis reviews the notes they stole from the same office to see if he can divine his father's location. But first, a piece of advice from the series. Step 37 on the Pillar of Ruma says, compassion. Without it, we make the world a crueler place. So with that, let's get into chapters 21 through 25 of Plague Arcadis.
Welcome back to the Frith Guild podcast. I'm your host, Eric.
And I'm co-host, Scott.
And today we'll be going over chapters 21 through 25 of Plague Arcanist, fourth book in Shami's world. And before we get into it today, we want to just thank everybody for listening. We are getting super close to 1,000 downloads at this point as far as podcasts go. So we are super excited for that. Once we get closer, we'll be broadcasting, and hopefully we get to that sooner rather than later. We also want to thank everybody and hope that everybody can show us some love by sharing, commenting, or rating and whatever platform you're listening to this on. We also want to make mention that the Frith Chronicles Wiki link is in the description down below, so make sure you go check that out, along with the link for the Capital Station Discord server. And so that way you can go over there and join in on the conversation. And with that, we'll get into chapter 21, Biyu at the Bazaar.
Chapter 21 opens up with Volke training with the new sword. So he freshly made Retribution and is trying to get used to it. It's a different length, a slightly different setup from what he's used to. Joze also gives him a nullstone sheath and explains a little bit about imbuing with nullstone. So one of the reasons that's important is that it keeps the sword from being found from any mystical creatures that would recognize it or other ways to recognize magic. And the other interesting component with nullstone is it does require extra star shards to be able to imbue with. So this sheath, very important, but also cost a little bit extra to make. We do get a little bit of interaction with Volke and the rest of his crew. So Fane talking with Volke a little bit while he's invisible to give him some inner advice on the workings on the ship. Adelgis is pretty much sequestering himself in the room. He is trying to deduce his dad's location from the letters that they find. And it's eventually 3 days passing where Volke and Fane are training and Adelgis is on his own. So Volke is kind of losing a little bit of control with his terrors. We have a moment where he does accidentally impact some of the crew. Has a negative feeling about this and feels like it has to do with succumbing to the plague and a little bit of difference in his magic changing. He does happen to notice that Biyu is trying to sneak off of the ship. He tails after her, and when he questions her, she's going to buy the captain a present, which is just the sweetest thing that she could be doing. So Volke does agree that him, Fane, will accompany her so that she can buy the present. And one of the cutest moments that she has is she does end up petting Race Skull, and she asks him what his favorite food is, and he almost replies with human flesh.
You know, I bet this would probably taste better than what they've been given on the ship so far.
Yeah, they've had some hardtack and some biscuits that are more rock than biscuit. So while they are out going to the shops, there's a group of children that are running around. They end up bunching into Volke. They're pretending to be arcanists, and Volke has a slight interaction with them before he realizes that Biyu is nowhere to be found, and eventually finds out that it's Callisto's crew that has kidnapped Biyu.
Because, of course, why wouldn't Callisto be here?
He's just always tailing along too. He loves Volk as well, so he followed him here.
When I was reading this part about the children pretending to be Arcanists, I was expecting something to like be missing or stolen or something like that. I'm trying to remember when I was reading this, I was like, what is important that's on him right now that could be stolen?
That was the first thing I thought of as well. And I was like, well, he doesn't have his guild pendant. He threw that away. So his trinket's broken. So I was wondering what was going to get stolen as well.
Leads us into chapter 22, The Return of Dread Pirate Callisto. Well, crap. Can't get a break from Callisto anywhere. Unfortunately, because we're in New Nora, the only crimes that they care about in New Nora is the crimes committed in New Nora. So everything that Callisto has done, everything that all the craziness that's happened, pretty much doesn't matter as far as they're concerned in New Nora. Volke does something fairly uncharacteristic of himself, and he starts to act really brash. Granted, he did send Fane to go get the battalion commander, whatever they're called. He did find a third abyss pirate that was standing outside, wasn't an Arcanist, and he just like straight takes this dude down and starts demanding, where's Callisto? We find out that Callisto is drinking at the Waterside Notable. I thought about the name and wanted to do a little bit more, than just surface level. And the Waterside being a land next to a bank or a shore, and notable being worthy of attention. But this place is literally described as innocuous with the rest of the buildings that are right around it. So you really wouldn't have known that it was there.
And being that it's in the middle of a desert, it's probably not Waterside either.
So kudos to the person that named this building. While he's in there, Volke realizes that Callisto is Lynus. Like, oh my gosh, this is the missing piece. I feel like Volke was probably had it in the back of his mind, but it finally clicked into place when he saw Callisto, with his hair color, the way he talks, all that. And first read through of this, I had a thought or had a feeling that this is probably what was going on. But until it was confirmed, I was still kind of curious. It turns out Callisto is looking for Ilya, and the pirates that had captured Biyu was super excited because they're like, oh my gosh, we found her. And Callisto looks at Biyu and was like, this is not who we're looking for. And I could only imagine the pirates being like, but this, she's missing an eye. She has an eye patch. This is her.
I would think the same thing, and you're just so excited. Callisto's going to be so proud of me. I found the girl.
Yay.
Turns out she's about 5 years too young. And
so we find out that Callisto was not the one that cut Bayu's eye out, thankfully. So when in Callisto's corner-ish, we do find out that it's actually Captain Redbeard that was the one that did this one to her. Callisto is like, you know what? I forgot about Redbeard. I need to go take care of some business with him.
And Spider does chime in. She brings news that Redbeard is looking for a Manicore. And Callisto kind of jokes that, oh, he's trying to get on the same level as me.
So thankfully, Volke actually gets Biyu back without an incident. He doesn't see Volke. Volke doesn't start a brawl in there. The stars aligned for Volke. And they get outside, and Bayu's absolutely hysterical because she thinks that Captain Devlin is going to find out that she made trouble. At first, I was like, did I just read that right? Because she just was in this thing with Callisto, and there's no way. But then she's like panicking because she thinks Bayu's going to throw her away. Now, we do get a sense that this is kind of something happened before, because obviously that wouldn't be a natural reaction. And this poor girl, I really don't think there's anything short of bringing like the plague on board that would cause Devlin to kick her out or kick her off of the ship as the cabin girl.
And Volke knows this. He knows that the crew loves her, and he tries to convince her, but he's even struggles to get her fully on the side of, Devlin isn't going to go crazy again on her, isn't going to kick her off. She's still scared to death, even with the reassurances. That does bring us into chapter 23, which is a moving labyrinth. So Biyu, on the way back, starts repeating her own pillar phrases, and Volk gets a little weak in the knees, a little giddy. He's super excited.
And then he comes in immediately. He's like, optimism. Without it, we lose ourselves to misery. Just has to like jump in there with the pillar.
Yes, it is. She's never seen the pillar, but she is very excited to learn that Volk also has the same phrases, also really appreciates her guidance that she lives by. When they get back to the ship, Karna is waiting for them and is pretty eager to talk to them. She takes them into one of the officers' quarters, and there's a bunch of maps laid out on the table. And Vethika's really deduced that nobody's gotten to the center of the labyrinth because nobody has even been able to make it to the center of the labyrinth, which is why nobody's bonded with the Khepra. And part of that is because the labyrinth actually moves throughout the day. So in order to get to the Khepra, you have to make it through the labyrinth at a certain time. And the guidance on what time that is has essentially been changed. Thiessen has a different map that would really have you end up in a different end room. So what they're thinking is that Thiessen has almost altered the original map. People are going to the wrong location at the wrong time, and that he's able to essentially get to the Khepra whenever he needs to. So someone went in, probably at his building, to really change the maze and prevent any new bondings with the Khepra.
Props to Shami.
Major props.
How much thought went into not only just, okay, the labyrinth moves, but then it moves because there's the river and it's controlled by the river, and that's how it moves, like a giant water wheel. There's a meme that she put out not too long ago that was basically that, like, author type A going through the physics and looking up all these things, then author B is just magic.
Yeah, and I agree. To think through the different ways that the labyrinth would work, the timing of it, how it would, last over decades and still be there. It's a lot of thought and energy into something that, you could take the easy route and just say it was magic, but it really adds a lot of complexity to the story. So the new path based on Thiessen's map says that in 3 weeks, they should be able to go through the labyrinth. So Adelgis is worried that they're not going to be able to find his father, and they should really go to the Khepra because they know that they'll be able to get there, and that could be the best chance that they have at curing the plague. The plan that they're going to use, so Devlin is going to create a hurricane aura. So the rock aura essentially is going to cause a giant sandstorm, and they've actually used this in the past to distract the guards. The guards worry about rushing everybody inside, and buys them a little time to essentially sneak into the labyrinth. Karna wants Volk, Fane, Adelgis, everyone to come along as well, just in case they need a little bit of extra help going through this. But the plan is for Vethika to tackle it on her own first.
This is straight turning to Ocean's 11 here.
It very much is. They've got the distraction going. They're going to have a getaway driver at the end.
All right, moving into chapter 24, the Mother of Shapeshifters. It's dream memory time as we fast forward through 3 weeks worth of waiting. Zelfrey and Lynus are getting closer to finding the Mother of Shapeshifters, and we find two men dead. One was bitten by something, and one with its head smashed in. And they both were laying there with their skin flayed off, which is kind of scary and creepy. And imagine that's a warning. Those are nope dreams. Zelfrey, being the intelligent person that he is asking all these questions. Was there rocks near the guy? Did it look like somebody bashed his head in? What happened? Could it have been a snake that killed this one guy? Lynus is like, look, dude, I don't know. I saw them. I told you what I saw. That's about all I can tell you.
It's a horror movie.
So Zelfrey decides he's going to steel himself to go and still talk to the Mother of Shapeshifters, try to bond with her. And before Zelfrey walks away, Lynus comes back with, "Look, I will kill the Mother of Shapeshifters if she kills you, Zelfrey."
That's a horror movie.
Get kind of that, "Aww."
He's fighting for his sweetie.
Oh, don't worry, honey, I got you. As Zelfrey's moving, or Everett's moving through the woods, he sees what he thinks is scarecrows. And then he hears somebody responding. And mind you, this whole area is not only wooded, but it's also covered in this fog. So he can only see like a few feet ahead of him at a time. And he hears somebody say that they're excited that there's somebody new coming up because then they'll have a new sibling. And then he gets to this open clearing and he meets Mother of Shapeshifters. And this thing is what I believe straight nightmare fuel, because it's got 2 eyes, 4 arms, and 4 legs, just all over the place, like moving as what I picture. And every time Zelfrey looks away, she has more eyes. And more and more and more eyes. So again, just super creepy. And in order for the Mother of Shapeshifters to give him an Eldrin, he has to tell her what his greatest fear is. And so that way she can tell him that he must overcome it in order to pass her trial of worth. And again, Zelfrey shows how absolutely wonderfully smart he is, seeing that one guy died from jumping off of a cliff because he was afraid of heights, or afraid of falling, I guess. The other guy was afraid of snakes and then got bit by a snake. So he tells Mother of Shapeshifters that he does not fear anything. Volke, while he's in Zelfrey's dream, thinks about it and says that his greatest fear would be for failure. And not just failure of a quest or something, but failure to find a cure for the plague, failing to keep the world safe. Like actual good things to be afraid of or fearful of. So we know who's going to win the Miss America pageant now, because we know who's got like the best answer to that question.
He's out here solving world hunger.
I think the Mother of Shapeshifters and the Keeper of Corpses, and we'll go over the Keeper of Corpses later on, are probably the only creatures that we know that don't have a specific Eldrin that the person chooses. So like with nightmares or with the phoenixes, they're all named, they're all trying to impress that individual Eldrin. Whereas with the Mother of Shapeshifters, they're trying to impress her so that she can give them an Eldrin.
It is a really unique situation because he doesn't really know going into it what happens if he passes this trial of worth. You know, he doesn't know, do I get the Mother of Shapeshifters as my Eldrin? You know, I don't know what will come of it, but I know that this is a difficult trial of worth, so it's definitely worth pursuing. And to add to the nightmare fuel that the Mother of Shapeshifters is, when she goes to leave, ends up just turning into a bunch of birds and scattering everywhere. So also very, very creepy, and kind of glad he ended up with Traces, who is very cute.
But then she's like in this like spider egg sack, is what's described, and then she hatches from it. And she's got this really, really long tail. So she starts wrapping her tail around Everett's wrist, and they bond. And I think this is where Traces actually prefers to be Bangles, because her first instinct with her first moments with Everett was wrapping her tail around his wrist. That's just my thoughts on it. So I'd love to hear if anybody else has any different thoughts. But so we get back to Lynus, and we find out that Lynus is a dog person. And I just want to say that very ironic that he bonded with a manticore, which is part lion.
Not as much of a dog person as he thought. And the chapter ends with Volke waking up from this beautiful dream rendition to find himself laying next to Karna. And that does bring us into chapter 25, which is aura training. So Karna was really hoping Volk would ask for more than a hand on the hip as they're sharing this bed. She does let on that she used to share a bed with Vedika beforehand.
There's so many questions.
A lot of questions.
So many questions.
Volk really says that he doesn't want to take the risk. He worries about disappointing William. Karna starts to make a move, kind of lean in to give a little kiss, and Luther jumps in.
Just straight, block shot.
He ends that moment pretty quickly.
Well, then folks like, well, I could send Luther away, but Adelgis is always listening, so... And she's like, well, I sent my Eldrin away every single night. Thank you very much.
And I really don't blame Volk. I wouldn't have thought to send Luther away. He's not super set on anything. Like you said, he's kind of worried about the situation to start. So I wouldn't have thought to send Luther away either. But Karna's one step ahead of him there.
But it's almost that like out of sight, out of mind kind of thing, because Luther's just shadow, so he's in the void, like in the shadows, just chilling.
Yeah, he's not just hanging out as a plate armor in the corner.
Oh Lord, that'd be so awkward.
We're missing Nicklin kind of running through him, poking out from the visor. Volk, after having his dream about the Mother of Shapeshifters, ends up asking Karna about her interaction. She refuses to answer, essentially cuts everything off, does not want to talk to Volk anymore. Volk is kind of thinking through the interaction, realizes that he really thought he was going to slow play it with Addie, come back from the plague, be cured. Addie and him would kind of pick up where they left off. Karna is just pissed about the whole situation, so she ends up leaving and saying that she doesn't want to share a bunk with Volk anymore.
Ouch.
Yeah, brutal.
Now who's gonna cuddle with?
Luther.
Yeah.
That plate armor. Joze is talking with Volk. They're essentially trying to make up for lost time. They don't have star shards to be able to practice imbuing, but he does offer to teach him aura magic. He says that, he's helped teach Devlin, he helped teach Vedika, and this would be an opportunity for them to spend some time together, work together, be productive.
So Devlin is said to have the hurricane aura, and Vedika has the thunderclap aura when she had the Thunderbird. And with the thunderclap aura, it kind of pretty much like attracts toward, like lightning attracts towards anything metal. And for those that have played Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom know that if you are holding or have anything metal equipped with you while it's lightning actively like thunderstorm out, you get zapped and die. Or, Mephis Grace comes out or whatever. But still, you get pretty much killed. One shot killed. And I can only imagine this is probably how that thunderclap aura works. Just that, like, don't realize it until it's too late and just get zapped.
Yes, and there's a lot of metal armor, a lot of metal weapons. It's tough to be in a battle with that and not have any metal on. We also learned that Blue Phoenix does create a unique aura. It's called Exhaustion Aura. So there have been cases, Joze mentions that they pretty much had multiple auras going on at once. So the Thunderclap aura, the Exhaustion aura, really combining to be a deadly duo. So Volk agrees to this training, but says that he does also want Adelgis and Thane to come along with and also benefit from the experience.
Hey, they his boys.
Always looking out for the squad.
And I think, because we have Fane and we have Moonbeam, I think the agreed upon nickname, or what Volk's pirate name on the ship would be, Eclipse. So thank you everybody for voting for your favorite and chosen preferred nickname for Volke on the ship. I know there were some fun ones on there.
I did vote for Shadow Daddy.
Oh, did you?
Did.
I got it. For those that have read the Fourth Wing or Akatar series and know about Shadow Daddies in those series, I actually got in an argument with my wife about who the original Shadow Daddy was. And we had to look through the original dates of when these characters were introduced and when these books were written to conclude that Volke is the original Shadow Daddy.
Yes, there we go. Setting the precedent.
With that, unfortunately, we don't have a bestiary section this week again because we don't have any new mystical creatures. Once the bestiary is announced and released, we will be going over some mystical creatures that we've already looked over and doing a deeper dive into those individuals to find out what their true forms, all that stuff. Because I know the bestiary should have not only their trials of worth, their tiers, their evocation, manipulation, augmentation, their aura, and then it'll go over true form stuff, their true form requirements, all of that. So once we get closer, once that is released and we are able to talk about it, we will certainly talk about it. All right. And with this being the middle of the book, I believe we're actually going to be taking a break from the book this week. Next week, we are going to have our sit down with Joze Stovall, who is Shami's husband, and being an author himself as well. So definitely looking forward to that interview. And then the week following, we'll be right back into 26 through 30 of Plague Arcanist. We're actually already halfway through this book, believe it or not.
Moving along.
And we thank you so much. See you next week.
Eric, Scott, and I want to thank everyone for listening today. We post a new episode every Wednesday morning at 11 Eastern, 10 Central, and 8 Pacific Standard Time. We are on all podcasting platforms and are also on YouTube as well for video. After the additional episode airs, we post chapter-by-chapter videos every day in a smaller, easier-to-digest format. We do want to give a special shout-out to the final member of our team, Dan Mackison, one of the admins for the Frith Chronicles Wiki, link listed below, and doing his best to keep everything running smoothly behind the scenes. If you want to reach out to us, you can email us at frithguildpod@gmail.com or on Facebook or any other social media by searching for Frith Guild Podcast. Just to remind everybody, we have links to everything in the description below on both the podcast and YouTube. Scott, do you have anything else you want to add this week?
Nope, getting ready for this labyrinth.
Woo!